Is this serum essentially the cure?
We don't know, Betty. We certainly hope so. As you know, there is no cure for Ebola, no vaccine available for clinical use at this time. And normally patients are given fluids, blood transfusions, and antibiotics with the hope their immune systems can fight off the virus. But with a case fatality rate of up to 90% and a death toll of nearly 900 from this latest outbreak stemming from West Africa, those measures are far from effective. Well, we may now have a breakthrough, a potential one at the very least, because at the request of the U.S. charity that worked with the two infected Americans, Dr. Kent Brantley and aid worker Nancy Wrightbull, they were administered an experimental serum for Ebola and are both seeing remarkable improvement in their condition. So that's some encouraging news. The treatment, called ZMapp, never tested on humans until now, is being developed by San Diego-based Mapp Pharmaceuticals. The drug is made with tobacco plants and with an Ebola antibodies harvested from infected mice. Until now, Mapp Pharmaceuticals has been a little-known company with only 9 employees. A little more known now, Betty.
So we mentioned early on, Yang, that the serum has not been tested on humans yet. So how were they able to use it in these cases?
Yeah, I guess it's a case of desperate times, desperate measures, Betty. It was a gamble. Desperate to save their aid workers, Samaritan's Purse, the organization that both Brantley and Wrightbull work for, they reached out to the CDC asking for experimental options. That led them to a contact at NIH who directed them to the ZMapp drug. The U.S. has very strict drug rules, as you know, but the FDA can approve emergency application of unapproved drugs under what's known as the compassionate use clause. That's what we're seeing here. Brantley and Wrightbull were informed of the risk and had to give their consent before receiving the treatment. So again, not tested, never tested on humans until now, and the drug maker has made it very clear that any decision to use the drug is the physician's call, not theirs.
And why don't we have an approved treatment? I mean, is this an issue of funding?
You know, Betty, it definitely is. Pharmaceutical companies just aren't, there's no real appeal to an Ebola vaccine, to tell you the truth. And that's been a real challenge for people to get through. These drug makers have had these potential vaccines and treatments in the works for years, but not enough funding to get to that clinical trial stage. And that's ZMapp, the drug that's being used on the 2 patients in Atlanta, hasn't been tested until now. There is a little bit of a silver lining recently with the anthrax scare a few years ago. They have seen a little more funding. The National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases has reported spending about $43 million on Ebola research last year. So we are making some headwinds, but still not enough for any of these treatments to get to that clinical trial stage. We're still a few years off from an approved treatment, Betty.